It's recording.
Hi everyone, and hi JMac. My name's Joe, and just intro our little project that we've been working on, which is working on Tableau Server repository data, and we were challenged to go out into the community on Twitter and internally, and find out what views people would actually like to see from the server repository data, because there's lots of it, and it would be really useful to focus in on specific areas. So this first dashboard, which I've come up with, is the intro to the rest of the team, and this is the survey responses. So you can see the breakdown of where we got our responses from. Office, 48%.
Oh, this is where you asked to get feedback from?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, cool.
So most of our responses did come from internal and who was in. A few more came from the wider information lab network, and 40% came from Twitter. We broke down all of the requests. We sort of categorized them into themes, and then attempted to look at each theme, or as many themes as possible. We actually ended up trying to get through at least 77% of the requests that we were given. And yeah, and so for each of the themes, we can see like a sample question. So a really common category was people wanting to know what sheets had essentially been abandoned, and whether they could delete them, so taking up unnecessary storage. So in this little tooltip, you've got a sample question, which says which worksheets are no longer using the server. So if I just click on the Twitter responses, we get a bit of a drill down there. Again, worksheet last usage was really a key theme coming out of all of the questions. So what we can do on this dashboard as well is just click on each of the themes, and we get a breakdown of the exact questions, who asked them, and the social media that they came from. So that was sort of where we went with this. And my second dashboard came from two requests, both internal, one from Carl and one from our own JMac, and that was on web edits. So I'll demo my second dash.
So what was the question for web edit though?
So the question was, what is usage, or how is web edit being used?
Okay.
On Tableau Server. So to actually get this data, we used a data set, which basically had, what did it have? Oh, it had a URL, so for all of the clicks, and then every time someone was using web edit, inside the URL there would be a sort of /authoring /. So I just wrote a bit of regex and then filtered down, so we just had the times web edit was being used. So this view shows instances of web edit usage, so we can see who the key users are within the information lab. Ravi right up there, and of course Noel. Yes, we can see the top workbooks as well as the users, and then if we hover over, we can see who the most common user for each workbook was, and there's the drill down here as well, so you can see within each workbook which users were using web edit the most. In terms of time series analysis, what I've built is a view to show the hourly usage of web edit, because web edit is quite intensive on the server. So JMac, I thought it might be nice to look at how web edit usage is impacting performance. But it's actually, so you can see that most web edit usage is within normal working hours. Someone did try to use it at 4 AM, not sure. But strangely, the performance So the average load time is lowest during working hours, and then massively goes up late at night, which is interesting, but that's sort of what you want. You want to have slow load times when less people are using it. It's more convenient for everyone.
So what's going on at that time of night then?
That's a,
Is that like
that's a good question.
extracts
I'm probably,
refreshing or?
yeah,
Oh, maybe.
probably one for JMac to.
You also just have less caching of the server at that point because people won't have been in it for a few hours, so the cache might have cleared itself. So the next person to click the link will then they'll
have to load the whole cache, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's a potential reason why. And then another use case that JMac wanted to investigate was looking at whether people are editing existing workbooks or creating new ones in WebEdit. So are people starting to use WebEdit more than just conventional desktop? For this one, again, we can see which users are really taking to WebEdit full time. And I did another piece of time series analysis just to look at the Information Lab's historical usage of WebEdit, and in particular using WebEdit to look at new workbooks. So we can see that around December 2018, WebEdit usage has started to really go up, and you can see that in the 5-week moving average. So I think that's more or less it from me. And unless there are any comments from Andy, Carl, JMac.
JMac?
No, that's really nice, Joe. The chart to the right-hand side, with the top workbooks, it seems like a lot of those are just saying $new workbook.
Yeah, so everyone if people are making a new workbook, I assume the workbook name is being recorded as a new workbook until they save it, maybe. So yeah, at that point, this top workbooks kind of breaks down as an analysis, but it's quite useful when you're looking at just the editing.
So those ones that people probably start editing and throw away.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So. Cool.
Nice, and it's I think it's really useful to see the difference between the folks who are creating brand new workbooks versus ones who are editing them.
Yeah.
I guess over time we'd probably see more data schoolers initiating new workbooks on the server, because us old school people would tend to use desktop or something else.
It might be quite nice to have a sites filter, so we could straight away start looking at was this activity within the data school site, for example. And that might answer that question I'll begin to. Yeah. Okay. I'll pass over to Matthew, who looked at last usage of dashboards.
Oh, you need to stop sharing.
Stop share.
You do need to stop sharing. Is that done? Cool. All right. Hey everyone. Hey JMac. I'm Matt, and I was looking at a couple of things. So first, I'll go through the custom views that was requested by the Information Lab's own Gwilym, and then I'll go on to my dashboard about last usage. So Gwilym gave us the task of answering the question, how many of TIL have a custom view for the annual leave tracker? So this is very much geared to answering that question. So we have, it's quite sparse at the moment because given that this is supposed to be on the server, I thought it'd be good to keep load time as short as possible by excluding as much as possible from the get-go. But if we click on annual leave tracker. It populates the list of all the custom views, including the names of everyone who does have one. And this bar shows us the percentage of users with that view. So to answer his question, it is a measly 11% of people until who have a custom view, which really ought to be higher. But
Why should it be higher?
because you'd imagine people would want to, or should have.
Oh, you mean
a
just to
custom
track
view.
themselves, you mean?
Yeah.
Right, okay, gotcha.
But if I build a perfect dashboard, then you don't need to make your own custom view. I'll just build it perfectly for you already. That's why the placement planner is
Yeah,
not.
if being the operative phrase there. Did you actually make it?
The placement planner, yes.
Oh.
It's not this one.
No, not this one, okay. But yeah, so it was a fairly simple question and a fairly simple dashboard to go with it. The slightly more complex one was the last usage one. So the idea behind this was we want to have a look at every single workbook and every single view on our server and see when it was last viewed. So we have the graph here, just a simple bar chart, which tells us in order of, hold on, a descending order of when it was last viewed. So the ones that were viewed furthest away in time at the top. Date since last view, the size of the view, and then whether or not it meets the cutoff. And the cutoff is driven by the parameter up here, which is just days cutoff. So we can change this to say talk amongst yourselves.
What's the cutoff is the line, so all those are above.
Yeah,
So it
so
means they haven't been used in over 165 days.
oh, yeah, over 165 days. So if I scroll down, you'll see,
See some blue ones. Yeah.
and there we go. And then in the bottom right, we have a simple stack bar to show the proportion of how many we could get rid of based on this condition, and how many we could keep. And in the top right, we have how often the individual workbook was viewed in the last 6 months. So for example, if someone was looking on the server and thought, oh, what's this? And clicked on a view and thought, oh, actually it's just a load of trash, it might show up down here, but it might also not have that many views and maybe worthless. So you can filter through the sites and that'll take its time. Sites and projects. So it's still going. There we go. And projects. Let's just go to default. And all the views will update. So these are all the views in the Information Lab site and the default project, and these two have updated as well. An additional thing, you can simplify this view and this view by clicking on here to see just the ones that we could get rid of based off this condition. So, wait, does it? There we go. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, hopefully this is a useful tool and will help people kind of solve the problems surrounding excess workbooks on their server.
I think it'd be useful to have some way to export that list.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few things that I toyed with, like maybe having a data-driven alert.
Yeah. Or a kill switch.
Or yeah, or literally, yeah. I was thinking maybe like a warning saying that like a workbook would be deleted. But yeah.
Ellie was asking what I mean, but so basically I have a button on there that says delete them.
See the whole what?
Whatever's in that list on the left-hand side. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're an admin, so
Yeah, true.
you know,
Lots of power.
it could have a configuration.
Confirmation. But are there any questions or comments? J-Mac?
That's nice, Matthew. I guess my only bit of feedback there would be there's so many views with generic names like dashboard 1, sheet 1. I don't know if you hover over the bar, if in the tooltip you have the site and the project and the workbook that comes from, that would be good information to add.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that would be good.
I can see 3 dashboard 1s there, and I don't know where they are.
Hover over one of the dashboard 1
So,
bars. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Maybe the same thing.
Yeah.
So maybe just find a way to incorporate the site and the, oh, well, we're on the Information Lab site already, but yeah, incorporate the project and maybe the workbook name as well.
You could have all 3, right? Site, project, and workbook in the tooltip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hierarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be cool.
In a similar way to what JMac's saying, it might be nice to have a section bottom where you can select the project, select an individual project, and you can, and that filters on, and that filters the chart at the top, and it shows you the percentage of workbooks that are over that cutoff. Now, obviously, then maybe you might have a problem in the finance team where they're creating all these views.
Sorry, what do you mean? A project filter?
So at the bottom, we have a section where you can select just almost big numbers. Each big number is a different project.
Instead of having the drop down?
Yeah.
Right.
Because then you can immediately see a proportion of these workbooks.
So you're saying your project, instead of having it filter, have it as like left to right, like almost like a table at the bottom, big numbers.
Oh, I
so
see.
You can see how many in each project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, you can really see the finance team creating these views.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be good. Cool. Who am I handing off to? Right. Jamie. I have no idea. I think I just need to stop sharing, right?
Yeah, so I just start sharing through audio and then it should be okay. Yeah.
JMac, audio and video okay?
Yeah, so far so good.
Okay. Make sure if you guys ask questions from the back of your guys as well, so the microphone can get you up.
Yeah, I struggled to hear Jonathan's question. It just came through, but if you could, yeah, if you're asking questions, maybe be a bit louder. Whoa.
I just need to say, but I'm sure. Oh, is it okay? Yeah.
Okay, should be okay now.
So you can hear me, JMac.
Yeah, it's good now.
Sorry, I clicked my own audio. So so I'm Jamie, and so Matt looked at the same database of views of the last 6 months. However, he has gone for the overall look. I have gone for each user. So one particular use case was, for example, from Gwilyn. You have a client and you've made a dashboard for them. How many times they've actually viewed that dashboard that you have made? That can show, have you done as effective, or are they being effective at their job by looking at the data you've presented to them? So right now,
make sure you guys talk to your computer so that
okay, yep, sorry.
Hear the screen.
So right now, I'm looking at Dan Rains. Dan Rains, in terms of our company, he is often responsible for the placements. So for this, at the moment, we're looking at this particular month, and we can see the top workbooks he's viewed on our server. So fortunately for us, he does focus on us to get us a good placement, because you can see the top dashboard, the top workbook is the placement dashboard. Gantt, sorry, yeah. There we go. It's a Gantt dashboard. He has viewed it 17 times this month, and it's seven more than last month. And that's through the reference line on each one. If it's a green color, it means it's above the last month, and if it's a darker color, it's below. And then also in terms of Gwilyn's particular question of, so when did he last view that dashboard? I've now selected this dashboard here, and it's been 1 day since he's viewed that, and you can see that chart on the right hand side, and then 4 views yesterday, and you can see there's a slight gap for it at one part when he wasn't using the dashboard, and he has since then. So then we have a lot of users on this server. We have a lot of people in working for the Information Lab. Also, we have a few test users, for example. So a lot of duplicates. So it could be hard to filter out each particular user. So I've put them in sets. So for example, we might want to see in the head coach pane. Maybe not. I don't know what happened there. Okay. Well, so I won't do that.
Is it because you have username picks, so set username back to all?
Maybe, but I thought it was working earlier.
You have contextual filters.
Sorry. What's happened there?
Well, I understand the idea.
It was working earlier.
You pick Tom.
And then, yeah, we can see Tom. We can see it per quarter. And we could look at another particular dashboard. And then it'll show us that particular dashboard time. But in theory, if it's working, which I don't know why it wasn't, it would change the role. You can see the sales people, you can see the head coaches, Carl, Andy, the core team, and for example, us in DS16, and that could show us what do we actually look for.
Cool. I think I don't like how you have to pick again down the bottom.
Yeah.
So I would make it just an action where you click on the bar and it updates the bottom.
Yeah, I did think that myself, but then I need to also an is null function, because this would only show you the ones that aren't null, so the ones you have viewed. So for example, Andy, if I made you a dashboard and you haven't viewed it yet, it wouldn't be on there to click on it, and therefore I just want to see, have you done that dashboard? It's not the best way to do it right now, but it needs to be some other way. But that's the reason it had to be like that. Just looking at one specific dashboard, have they viewed it or not, and when did they?
But then what I might do is, same as Andy, use the action filter to do the chart at the bottom. Because if you're selecting one that the user hasn't viewed at all, that chart's blank.
Like, yeah.
So you could just have a drop down or a list of the workbooks that they haven't viewed at all. So you have an action that filters the chart, but then the separate part where it's showing the workbooks that they haven't viewed the way they should have.
Can you also choose all from the list at the bottom? Because I think it'd be useful to see his activity over time.
No, I think I did a single list. Does that make a difference?
Just scroll all the way to the top.
So
now we can see Tom's activity. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, because I put it just for the one. I did one.
Yeah.
Dashboard
Can you?
but yeah.
No, it's fine. That's it. So that's at the quarterly. And what does each bar represent here? A quarter.
The bar on the bottom right.
Yeah.
They should just do how many views.
Days?
Just how many views
Per day.
Yeah, per day.
Right. Okay.
And just throughout the course of this time.
Yeah. So if you hover over one of the tall bars. So it says on September 19th he had 2,000 views. That can't be right.
No, it's I'm not sure if it's reset for everyone for that one, because I've reset the all. I'm not really sure, but for the one particular dashboard, it would work for Tom's Brown views.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just double check on that. I think it's good that you allow the all option, because I might want to see Tom's usage over time.
Yeah.
But that's miscounting. I would assume it is. Because if you look at the other bars, it's still like the small bars. Yeah, it's 40. Those might be correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just double check the numbers there. It looks like it's.
We'll need to change it to.
It's just a column on top as well.
It's Tom Brown.
Maybe it's set a bot to look at
Yeah.
useful image.
I'm just wondering if this is including things like data-driven alert checks. Those check every 5 minutes for a condition. It might include some weird. That might count as a view in this data set. I need to look at the numbers more. But.
There might be some flag or something where you can filter those out, perhaps.
Change aqua view to activate that.
That makes sense then. That must be it, because there's such a large spike at one point that he's done something.
He's activated views. That's in September then, is that?
Well, you've only got the problem in September.
Yeah.
That's the only, it starts in September.
Right, but maybe he turns something on in September.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Good.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm in this meeting yet,
Dan hasn't been looking at his to-do list very much.
but saying I'm not.
So the latest link that I sent in. Have you looked at this time? So that's one go. All these screwed up. How you want to go? You don't need.
Okay. I don't know how to
Just
do
hit
it
the
then.
share button.
Right at the screen.
Just hit the share button, yeah?
Sorry,
Okay.
what's this?
Or, Jamie, you need to stop.
Oh, there we go.
Is this it? Champs
Yep.
versus jumps?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
cool.
absolutely. And you no longer
See that?
accept
Yeah.
people.
Maybe it just had you blocked. I don't
It's a
know.
long day that interview.
We'll check it for you.
No problem.
Brilliant. Okay.
I'll just show up the Tableau server and present somebody else.
Okay, so I looked at champs versus chumps, which I thought would be a really fun topic, and it turned out to be really difficult.
So what's the, who gave you the brief on this one?
See, this one?
Fee Gordon?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a really interesting idea,
Yeah.
and that was to basically figure out who was a champ and who was a chump. So champs would be someone who
Very
had
active.
a very active lot of
Yeah.
logins,
Yeah.
published workbooks, etc. And so we decided to come up with, I think in the end I chose 4 metrics to measure on to find out whether they were a champ or a chump. This is sort of a work in progress, it's not quite finished yet.
Yeah, I would say so with your office titles there.
Yeah. Yeah, I had quite a bit of difficulty with this one. I only kind of got somewhere, I think, in the last hour or so. It just took quite a while to get there. So the first metric I chose was the number of logins, workbooks published, workbooks viewed, and that's actually labeled, sorry. Yeah, sorry, yeah, and space taken up to the size of workbooks. So the reason that we had a bit of an issue with it was that the structure of the data wouldn't allow me to create the chart, and so I used a lot of calculations for it. So if we're talking about a big company, I would have to completely restructure the data, and we did start to do that in Alteryx.
Okay.
And then I decided to go back to the original data source just to see if I could do it on the server, and we did manage it, but it would be quite slow at loading if it was, over 2,000 people in a company, for example. So what I've done is I have used rank percentile, and I've ranked each person between 1 and 100, and then I've worked out the final rank based on those 4 metrics added together and literally divided by 4. Ideally, I'd actually want to weight those differently. To me, I think published workbooks should perhaps be weighted higher than number of logins, for example. So I'd maybe want to weight that at 40%, and then number of logins 20%, and then find out the weighting at the end. But I just think I can't do that.
Right now.
Yeah, it's just the average right now. But looking forwards, I would want to actually weight them separately.
I would probably make that the first column then.
Okay. Yeah.
Since that's, are you able to sort on the other columns if you hover over the axis? Like if we look at size to publish workbooks?
Yeah, so I can
There we go.
literally hover that way. Yeah.
Number of workbooks. So it didn't sort.
It didn't sort.
Oh, there it
It
goes.
did sort.
Okay.
It did sort. Yeah.
So Lane is has the largest number of workbooks published. Okay. Does your tooltip also then include the number of workbooks?
No, it doesn't. No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, you still need to clean those up
User's
then.
been taken out because obviously we had to take out the server names. Yeah, the tooltip needs to be cleared up, but it is a work in progress.
I would expect to see a lot of data scholars near the top there anyway because of publishing stuff on projects and things like that. So that's about what I would expect. Yeah.
Yeah, the space one was interesting.
So for the size of published workbooks, did you go for larger workbooks are better or smaller workbooks are better?
For the size, we literally worked out as the size. We tried to do it so you divided it by the distinct like count of workbook, but for some reason I just couldn't get that calculation to work.
Was
So
this size like in disk space? What is
yeah, so sorry, there's the size disk space.
So
Yes,
Matthew's
this is
question
gigabyte.
is, did you wait? So if you're just taking the ranks and dividing by 4, did you do an opposite ranking for the published workbooks or for the size so that the smaller size is better?
No,
Okay.
I did not.
That was
Sorry,
your
that's
question,
just,
right?
it's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, no,
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
So that might be something to figure out how
That's
you would,
quite a good idea, actually.
almost do like a reverse
Yeah.
percentile or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think adding to my calculation.
No, that's okay. Yeah. Yeah, it would just be, I'm not quite sure how you do it, but surely there's a way to do it.
It's quite a challenge. It's
So-
very calculation heavy at the moment,
Yeah.
which obviously, as I said, is not ideal. I got Jose, Hero Jose, was helping me with Alter It, and we did get somewhere with that.
Yeah.
I think if I had a bit more time with that, we could certainly do something with it, but.
I think it'd be good also to have, in the tooltips, have the actual numbers as well. Yeah.
I did run out of time with the tooltips. I just figured out how to do ranking.
That's okay.
At the last minute.
That's fine. I think it's a really neat idea though. And the coloring is just from top to bottom. 0
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking of, I wanted to change, right now the calculation, for colour to do the top sort of 10 percentile in a different colour to the others.
So like 10 separate colors or something. Well, you could even do
maybe just
you can
2
even do 25,
or 3.
25 to 50, 55 to 50 to 75, 75 to 100. Because then you
yeah,
could see if Alessandro might be very low and the number of logins was very high
Yeah.
and the amount of volume.
Yeah. I mean, I thought maybe doing the top 10 percentile different colour than the bottom 10 percentile in each one, just to sort of limit the number of colours.
Right.
But again, yeah, another calculation. I got to a point where I was thinking there are so many calculations in this. This would not work that well on a big.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That'd be
Had
useful
there been
though
more
to see.
people.
I think 4 colors would work well in the percentiles because then you could see like Alessandro, you might have 3 colors the same and then one that's not or something like that.
Yeah, and then someone could easily look at that and think, and you think,
a bit more actionable, I think, than just the gradual color scale.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very last minute colour scale. It was just Tableau blue.
Okay. Yeah. J-Mac, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna bring up the same thing about the size. I guess if we're thinking about champs are people who are publishing a lot, but maybe not necessarily taking up lots of space on the server. But yeah, you probably want to divide that by the number of workbooks and then kind of do an inverse rank and factor that in. Yeah. I also thought, maybe.
Thank you, Mark.
I also thought maybe on this view, I'm probably only really interested in the top 5 and the bottom 5. So rather than just get a whole list of every user on the server, I just want to see, I don't know, top N and bottom N.
Would you do that based on, like, let them choose which one of these categories or which one of these metrics then? Like the top 10 for logins, and then, basically like give them a parameter to choose one of these 5 metrics, and that's the one you would filter on?
I don't know about that. I think there's value in keeping it simple and just, saying that you've combined these 4 metrics to make a score, and then, score everybody on that. But then you don't want to see absolutely everybody on the server score. You just want to see the people at the top of the list and the bottom of the list.
Okay.
So you just want the top 5 people or the top 5 percentile?
Well, I do a parameter, top N parameter, and let people choose how many they wanted to see at the top and the bottom.
Okay, that'd be good.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
When I ask a question on the rank of, the middle column of work that's viewed, is that number of work that's viewed or number of views of the workbook? How like some people have got thousands of views on a workbook?
Yeah, so that's how many views. That's the number of views on a workbook.
Number of
your weighting, I would probably do 3 parameters, all 1 to 10, and then do the
4 parameters, because there's 4 metrics.
There's 4.
Yeah, so let them pick their own weighting.
Yeah, so counting the control point. I'll probably do 1 to 10, and then do the percentage of that total, so then you can allow You don't.
So they could weight size as a 10 and the other one says 2 or something like that. That's a good idea.
Just have 16.
But then you get the users just using it until they
And
get
then change, and then like weight your own percentages.
Yeah.
Oh, got you. Okay.
Yeah, pick your own weight.
Yeah. That'd be quite a cool idea.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would implement that, but yeah. I think I'm more about loading time as well.
Yeah.
On this one.
Yeah.
Because of the calculations, that if you restructured the data set and then did that could work quite well.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I think this was definitely one of the harder ones to figure out. Yeah, so I think the dashboard doesn't necessarily show the work that went on behind the scenes.
The number of attempts I've got.
She just built 5 bar charts and said it was difficult.
I've got 5 workbooks and it's like Friday project attempt 1, and I've got 5 of them. And this is the final one, so it took a while, and I came up with bar charts.
It's definitely headed in the direction that he was thinking. The one big thing again is just switching the size metric around.
Yeah,
I really like the idea of having separate parameters so people can.
Yeah.
Jonathan, would that be useful to be able to have your own weighting?
Yeah, I definitely think you could add parameters to weight each of these more heavily or lighter depending on your depending on whose server it is. You know, you might find in one company they really just care about how many workbooks are being published, and so you could heavily weight that more. So giving the end user an option to change those weightings would be useful. Mark's on the line as well. I don't know if anybody's monitoring the chat, but he's just he's said you could do 1 minus rank to give the reverse percentile.
Yeah, we saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
That would be quite nice.
compared to users.
Top trumps, nice. I like it.
I wonder if it would also be useful to have, well, no, in this case, because you're doing a rank, it wouldn't make sense. Okay, forget it. I was thinking if it'd be useful to have, if you just had it as the number of logins and not the rank, then it'd be good to have an average line on there. So you can see who's above and below the average as well. So, did you hear what I was saying there?
No, sorry.
So if you weren't doing ranks and you were just doing the straight numbers, so like number of logins, you're just looking at the number of logins, you could have a reference line or something that has the average as well, so you can see how far somebody is above or below the company average or something like that.
That'd be good, yeah.
In fact, you could
just
change it onto, instead of 3% of the set scores, so you have a better idea of who's actually more of the outlier.
Yeah. Cool, good.
Set it to the drive.
Okay, just publish up the Tableau server.
Oh, got it.
Gina's got it.
Cool.
It's that whole technology thing that's getting to you.
Well, you don't use computers.
Okay, Andy.
Either that or you completely ignore it. Still doesn't have glasses.
Not tomorrow. For everyone to know.
You get one.
Yeah.
Side. You get one from one country, another from another. You gotta build them yourself.
What's happened?
Let's see.
Have you zoomed? Okay.
Change it to time.
Just what?
That's because you're floating stuff. That's what you get.
Oh, here we go.
Just make that fit entire view. So up at the top. Oh, okay, that's fine.
Right. Yeah, I know. But yeah. So I was going by the question, who is using all the space on my server or our server? And yeah, so I started by showing this by just giving a sort of view of how much space has been used by a running total, just of all the different projects and data sources that are going into our server.
So does that mean as of the last point, that's the size of the data on our server?
Yeah, 4 data sources.
But what if people delete data sources?
Then
go down
it
then?
would just go down, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's round total, so it'll be affected, but it won't have a massive drop. Like,
Right, but if
yeah.
if you delete half of your data sources,
Yeah, it's
you
gonna
can
go.
see it go down from
Yeah.
one period to the next. Okay.
So we don't delete anything clearly, we just keep adding and adding. So yeah, down here, I'll set it to workbook just now, just so that title actually makes sense. That should just be name, not workbook name. Carry on. Down here, so you have the different types of workbooks and the owners of them. So for Ravi, you can select that. And in the tooltip here, I set that if anything is over 1 GB, it's going to be flagged with a small warning, just to say, go and take a look, maybe clear some things up.
You could have put that as an indicator as a new column as well, as an additional column to the table.
Oh, you're next to them?
Yeah.
I thought about doing that, but I wanted to learn how to put it in the tooltip.
Okay. And you could also maybe color the bars as well.
We had a debate about that with Carl, about I colour bars too much, so I just stayed away from that completely. Okay. And yeah, so anything that goes below.
We disagree about every one of these, by the way. So.
And if it's below 1 gig, then it just gets a green tick saying more than welcome to be in the server. Here shows which users take up the most space. So Alessandro takes up 2.86. There's a reason for this, and he's a good example for how this dashboard could work. So I want to say it's in the data school site, so you can filter by site, and then you can use projects. And there you see Alessandro has an AC retention of 1 workbook is 2.5 GB. So I actually chased him down in the street yesterday as he was leaving work to ask if that was right. And to his surprise, it was right. Because I was wondering just why it was.
Literally hunted him down.
Yeah, like as he was going home, I just caught him. First time we ever met, by the way. Yeah, and then everything else is just, just filtering down here to different sizes of the workbooks and the date that it was created on. That I'm still need to do 1 or 2 things to get when you select off. Yeah. Moving on. And then so the whole thing, the 2 main, and then you can change that to data sources, which you can do. Let me just set everything back.
Switch your project back to all as well.
Yeah, let me just set everything back. Is there a way to reset them?
You can hit the little filter thing that's up there.
So if you can you create just a button on the dashboard that would reset all?
Surely there is.
Yeah. Oh, you got it? Cool. So yeah, you can change data sources and oh, I forgot to mention and so you can. Yeah, that's mad. So Tom has this crazy data source in here that's 3.7 gig, and it's been there since like 2013.
Oh, it's a demo data source, right?
Isn't it? Yeah, it's been in there like 2013.
It must be his version of
and
Superstore.
If I'm right,
Changed the name from Superstore to Wine Sales.
Oh no, it has been viewed in the last. Has it been viewed in the last 7 days?
Oh, so Craig has one called the.
Craig has one.
Yeah, we should probably start deleting some of this stuff at some point.
Yeah, the UK house prices one. That doesn't seem to get used too often. Well, it's been used this year, so at least it's got that. Yeah, so that's kind of, as you can see, just how these work. Just filter things down, and yeah, that's simple. Up here, you can change this view just for whatever reason you want, and that should, and that will just update.
Because I filtered the stuff at the bottom as well.
I was just about to say that should filter it, but then it didn't, so I've obviously taken it off. I'll put that back on.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any questions?
If you have, so for your top chart, your one total.
Yeah.
I don't know how the data structured. So that
Sorry?
running total.
Yeah.
If you put a data source on Tableau Server, you're going to get a line in Postgres to say data source this size.
Yeah.
If you then delete it, does that row remain in the data source?
It's a live connection, so it should just disappear completely if it's deleted.
So if it disappears completely, that row.
Yeah.
would it then appear still in that running total that it was on there?
I've not tried it, so I don't think it should. It should be just gone from the data completely, and everything will update. It will affect it, yes. So, but it should, because it's meant to be like a live running total.
But if, so in 2017,
yeah,
you've got data sources on there, you now delete. It would look like in 2017 or lower.
Yeah.
Than it actually was.
So I'm going to.
Yeah. Or I see your question. Yeah, that would. I never thought about that.
Is this connected live?
Yeah. Should be.
Okay, so
it might not be just now because I had to send it over to Jamie, but
okay.
It originally was. Yeah.
Right, but if you pull it up in your computer, it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm going to go in and delete a bunch of the data sources that are mine because I know we don't need them anymore. Cool. And I'm curious to see what happens to the.
Okay.
So the running sum should go down then.
It should, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, as John was saying, doesn't give an accurate reading of things in fact. But it doesn't need to be a running total. You could just literally have it as just a line chart showing the.
Yeah.
I thought the running total just was nice to see how much space was gradually being taken up.
You could have a dual axis as well, maybe, or something.
I think it is. But that was to make it look different.
One axis is the daily volume, and the second axis is the.
Yeah.
No, I don't think running total makes sense anyway. I think it should just be the total volume on each day.
That's what it was, and then but I kind of like how it was getting bigger. But yeah, I see the fact that it's live. Not great.
Well, but I think a running total, you're adding data from today to data from yesterday.
No, just the size. So it's the size of that.
Right, but you shouldn't add the size today to the size yesterday. Because then you're counting all of yesterday's twice.
Oh, well,
yeah, you're maybe right.
I'm assuming
it should naturally go up anyway. If you just have it as just a line chart,
yeah,
it should go up anyway.
Oh well, then we do delete stuff because it didn't go up. It was quite up and down. Because that was the way I had it originally.
No, I do think the running total does work. Because,
I don't think the running total
is based on it's based on created date or.
Yeah. No. Oh.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
We can. But do you understand what I'm saying?
I get both your points, and I'm also sure running total would work, but if not.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I get the idea. I'll test it.
That's what I'll test it and put it in the chat.
Just look at it on my computer.
Oh, I'll right. What happened then? No, I think it just duplicates.
Answer him. I didn't ask the question.
thought this was like.
No, leave the computer there.
Oh. Hi Mark.
How you doing, Mark?
To answer your question, I think it might just. I think it might just duplicate, which again isn't great for this
so the
chart.
Created date would just be.
I think it would be created
the original created date.
Which Charlie? Which data source is this? Is this the resources and extracts data source that's feeding this?
This is
resources and extracts. Yeah. So this is just a list of all the workbooks and data sources on the server. So there's one row for each item and the size of that item. Now, what I've noticed in here is
there's an updated date.
Yeah.
Must be the original and then updated date would be the most recent.
So I've just used the wrong axis, and that would be painful in that.
Well, it depends whether an updated date is through web edit and the created app. If you publish it overwrites it, I reckon it will edit the created date.
No, they create a new one. You create a new record.
So if you fix it to be a max of the created date, then you shouldn't have any duplicates.
All right, well then, to answer your question, Mark, should what thing?
Updated goes over the top. It's when you go over the top of the same content, I believe. I'm actually looking up the workgroups database data dictionary just to confirm. And I'll get back to you.
Cool. Well, until then, move on to next. Thank you.
Yeah, you should be able to now.
It's running forward. Yeah.
Do you understand what his question was?
Yeah. I'm going to go.
Right. Right. Hold on. Let me just get my mouse. There's a mouse here. Right. So doing our walkabout with Ryan in the office, we asked Carl what he would like to see, if it was to see any information on the from the Tableau repository, and he said that it would be very interesting to see the licenses, what type of licenses we have, which one I use, which one aren't used, and if there's any that we should be getting rid of because people aren't actually making use of them. So the first part of the dashboard is an overview of what types of license have been bought and used, and number of employee basically who haven't accessed the server and therefore could probably be just removed, just not have a license anymore. So the first graph shows you the type of license bought in terms of how many viewers we have. So obviously Till is a bit different to a normal company. Is that okay if I'm talking to my screen because I'm talking to this?
Yes.
I'm not talking to you. Is that okay?
Yeah. Talk to your screen so they can hear you.
Okay. So yes, Till obviously is very different from a normal company in that there's a lot more creators and less viewers. So at the moment we've got 6 licenses for viewers, 35 for explorers, and 172 for creators, out of a total of 300. So we've got a bit of margin left. We can bring on more people.
2 weeks from now.
Yeah. And then the second graph shows you actually how many licenses have been bought versus how many people have been granted access as that specific license. So we've got 172 licenses have been bought, but only 169 have been used. And then you will see that for explorers and viewers, actually, it's the other way around. So there's less that have been bought than been used. So my guess is some people who have been granted, have created licenses, have been granted access only as explorers and viewers. Just to clarify, a lot of people at Till aren't actually granted creators rights, they're granted server administrator rights. So I've merged them to put them as creators, otherwise there'll only be like, I don't know, 30 or something creators. So I wouldn't, to have a more sort of real life view of what it would look like. And then you have got the number of employees who haven't accessed the server in the last 30 days. Ideally, it would be nice to have a parameter action to show you if you're interested in, people who haven't accessed the server in the last 90 days instead of 30, but I think I want to do that. But what you can do is click on there, and then it takes you to the list of names of the people that you might want to get rid of, or give a reminder to say, having accessed the server in 30 days, why is that?
Can we sort that?
Can we sort that by date? Yes, probably. Again, I'm sure we can. Yes, throughout this morning, I had your motto in mind, Andy. Better be finished than not finished. No, was it? Better be finished than perfect. That's the one. Yes. So it's finished, but not perfect. There's a few tweaks and formatting that still needs to be done. So moving on to the bottom part, so there's a zoom in sort of on creators and explorers. The idea is to see if there's any creators that actually aren't creating, and therefore we could have a cheaper license bought for them as explorers, and similar for explorers, are they just viewing and could only be viewers and cost a lot less money to us. So we've got totals of 169 creators, and out of those, 36 have never published anything, so probably could be downgraded to explorers.
The guy at the bottom there is a bit sketchy.
Pardon?
The guy at the bottom of that list.
Yeah.
Conrad's all right.
So those in red are those that we can get rid of, and in blue we can still keep, but it shows you when the last, so if we scroll down a bit, that might be better, when the last published something. I'm not entirely sure why there are some nulls in there.
Published anything, right? Oh,
no, they will have published. For example,
right.
obviously Jonathan has published stuff, not this Jonathan, so another one. But so because he's got 5 owned workbooks, but yeah, it doesn't have the last published date. And the subscription is to show how many people have subscribed to their workbook. So JMac, you've got 1 person that's got subscription on 1 of your workbooks, so that's good. Because there's
probably Andy.
Maybe.
Because he signs me up for everything.
Oh, right. But yeah, Craig has got the most people that I would say useful dashes, because the most 13 people have subscribed to it.
Can you sort that?
Well, it's currently sorted by who we can get rid of and who we shouldn't get rid of.
Right.
As demanded by my stakeholder.
Okay.
And then explorers, so we've got 37 explorers, and out of those.
Sometimes you have to do what's right and not what the stakeholder says.
I did agree with him on that point though, so it was, yeah.
Sometimes the stakeholders just wrong.
So yes, we've got 8 explorers that are actually only viewing. That was really, really painful to actually get that small number. Thank you, Jonathan. Because, pardon?
Looks like they're all test accounts except for
yes.
Slico,
yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of blending involved in that dashboard, which made things a little bit complicated in terms of filtering and calculations. But got there in the end, so that's why those should be formatted better than they currently are. What was I going to say? Yes, ideally I wanted to see, or Carl wanted to see, when these people have actually joined. So if they haven't published but they've joined yesterday, then that's probably why. So that's something that needs to be added. And so as far as Explorer is concerned, you can see the name and how many views they've actually viewed and how many actions they've taken. Actions could be logging in and logging out. Which is how I filter those as those 8. So those 8 people I've only logged in, logged out, and viewed a view that haven't actually interacted with them. So test evaluate, I've logged in and out a lot of times apparently. And I think that's about it.
So you talked about excluding people.
Yes.
I would probably go along the same lines and just have a parameter that said exclude 30 days, not exclude 30 days, just like that window.
Yeah.
So you can just have that put as a parameter if you want. So you can give people a 30-day grace period.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're not using it in 30 days, then you'll start appearing on the big bad list.
Right.
Well, it's okay. It's a cool dashboard.
Does this include mobile usage? Is that automatically included, or is that?
I do not know.
Okay, I don't either. It's just JMac. How does it flag mobile versus? So, for example, like if we wanted this to be, or any of the dashboards that have been created so far, if we wanted to look at it for mobile only, to just kind of see who's actually using the dashboards on mobile.
Okay, so you just wanted to get a look at who's what devices people are looking at dashboards on.
Yeah, and dashboards are being viewed the most on which devices. Is that like a flag that's easy enough to add as kind of a filter or something?
It's a bit trickier than that. There is a device type column in one of the data sets, but I don't believe that's the right one to use. The best source of information is there's a table which tracks all of the incoming HTTP requests. So like it literally tracks the URL that people are coming into and the user agent. So the user agent column will tell us like what type of browser they're using, and it's quite detailed. So it'll give you information like whether it's a browser that's on a tablet or a phone or a Mac or a Windows machine. So that's what we could use. But
so it's unnecessarily complicated to answer that question.
Yeah. You got to do a bit of tidy up and some string parsing to get the answer out.
Yeah. Okay. I would think that's a pretty common question. Like, you want to know who's using your, like, if you design, you know, a sales dashboard for mobile, you want to know if anybody's actually using it on mobile.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I think someone on Twitter asked for that, if I'm not wrong.
We see what
Maybe.
questions are.
No, I think they're saying, like, I think someone asked on Twitter if mobile versus desktop. I've seen that somewhere.
Okay. So created ad is only when so that's for you, Charlie. The first.
Yeah, no, we just read it.
Okay.
That's I like this dashboard. I don't think I've seen any dashboards in the wild that are looking at license allocation with Creator, Explorer, Viewer. You know, because a fairly new type of licensing for Tableau. I don't think anyone's built a custom view that looks at this, so this is nice.
Anything that helps with efficiency savings always can be very popular with clients. So that kind of dashboard.
Okay, good.
Share.
Hit the share button.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. 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 Hi everyone. Hi JMac.
Hi.
I have, well, don't get too excited just yet, Andy. Okay, so my task was actually set by Mark, and I was lucky enough to have 10 minutes to chat with him yesterday about kind of specific issues that he's had and ways that he's kind of tried to build a new dashboard around it. The question was, how can we make the stats to load times dashboard better? And it's actually pretty ironic that Craig tagged me in a post on Convo today saying that I've had the longest rendering time using this dashboard, because that is the biggest issue. Just loading that dashboard is taking forever. So yeah, haven't actually got a completed dashboard yet, but I just wanted to talk you through the problems that I've had, ways around that I've tried to fix it, and where I'm at the moment. So this was the original one on our server. I didn't think like there was too much wrong with the charts itself. It literally was just the time it was taking to load. It wasn't that helpful, the distribution. It wasn't key to see whether there was a set threshold, whether that was kind of overrunning that threshold, on which specific views needs to be targeted. So that was something I wanted to look at with the new dashboard. So the main problem was just loading time. So the ways I tried to get around this was, so these issues I had on my individual workbook. There were so many filters and everything had to be on detail to get the granularity at the right level. So I had a overall server, then a site, then a view name, and then individual session ID. So to get all those on the view, I had to include everything on detail. There were also loads of long calculations to get the specific metrics as well. So that was also kind of taking up quite a lot of time. I did run a performance summary, and this was just me switching from one site to another, so literally from till to the data store. So it's taken about 20 seconds.
Not great.
No, not ideal. Okay, so the first thing I tried yesterday with JMac was just to create a simple extract and try running it on there. We had about 1.2 million rows, so it's quite a large data set, but it shouldn't be like catastrophic. Secondly, we tried exporting the data from the extract to a CSV file, then re-importing that CSV file to Tableau, but the calculations weren't pulling through, and there were a few LODs in there which weren't pulling through either, so that was a non-starter. And where I'm at the moment, and where I spent my morning sitting with Jonathan, is rewriting all the different calculations in SQL. This is so that by rewriting it in SQL, it's not asking Tableau to recalculate the calculations every time. You're kind of putting them into the database, so you're just asking Tableau to recall that response, rather than asking Tableau to do the whole calculation again. So hopefully that should, in theory, improve the time. So let me show you my theory as what I kind of wanted to create. Yeah, so I wanted to be able to have a specific session as an individual point, and for the company or client to be able to set an individual threshold. So different companies will have different times. So the moment I just set it to 10, which is what I discussed with Mark yesterday, and everything above that threshold is in darker blue, and everything on this side is fine. And then we can change between sites. And then my thinking was that you'd be able to click on individual session ID, and that will then take you to the individual user. And we did actually have IP address in there as well. But yeah, this is still a work in progress, and that's where I'm at at the moment.
I wonder if if the server actually stores the query that Tableau runs. So you know you have all that SQL you've written.
Yeah.
So when you're just using Tableau Desktop, it always writes the query that it's running, the SQL query it's running, to the log. And I wonder if it does the same thing for a session.
So you just copy that, you say, rather than
it might give a hint on if it's a really inefficient calculation. You might be able to see that in the SQL code.
Kind of strip them out.
We did look at the SQL code logs for some hints for the calculation.
Okay.
But it's still
okay.
We'll get there.
Yeah, it's going to be my next project or something, I think.
This was really difficult. I mean, that the built-in view as it stands is just a beast with the ridiculous amounts of table calculations going on and all sorts. I think what this exercise told us for this one is that there's a huge opportunity for Tableau to create a table in the Postgres with a much simpler presentation on load times, so that we could just look at, we could just pull one table out of the Postgres that has the load times for each workbook or something. It's easy enough. It's actually, I think this is potentially information that's easier to get out of the log files, but that wasn't really part of the scope of this project.
Okay.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions?
But it did make sense, JMac, to maybe have something that runs every day that takes all of the load times and throws it into a table somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a Python script that Tom Christian from Tableau has published, which grabs all of the log entries for basically every single query that Tableau Server is generating against the data source, and puts that into a hyperfile. So I think that's probably, you know, if you'd want to kind of automate that, that's the way I'd go.
Yeah,
the Python scripts against the logs. Yeah.
Add to every day so you can see what it is over time for a particular view or something.
Yeah.
Because that way you can see, like, when somebody, so Ellie's identified one that's really slow. She wants to be able to, she's told the user to fix it, and here's some suggestions, and then be able to track over time if it's getting better or not.
Yeah.
Because then you know who you need to go help then, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was what you couldn't really identify where to go from your dashboard. It was just like, here it is, but what we did about it.
I find it interesting that is the number of views right, because it's like all the same number. Is that?
Yeah, it's some of them it does change. I didn't know that we had to do an LOD for this.
Okay. That's fine.
But yeah, some of them are better than others.
Yeah. But why are they all in stripes like that? Is it the same?
It could be the same user.
So the number of views is identical, which is weird.
Yeah.
Oh, is each one an action on a workbook? Is
Yeah.
each one a view on a workbook, and then that
Yeah. So
each
there's
one of those is the total number of views on that workbook?
yes, the session
Right.
ID per
So
work.
each thing going up and down is a different workbook.
Even
Yeah.
though horizontal.
Or horizontally, yeah, tell me.
It is the same number of views.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
So do you
Oh,
think,
sorry.
just a quick question. Do you think it's a good idea to write it out in a SQL table then use the key, or
You mean the logs?
yes?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what? Keep going with that project, or is there no way
Maybe.
to do it?
Yeah. I mean, if you can read the logs instead of the tables and push the load times into a SQL table somewhere, then you can just query that instead.
Or easily. Okay.
Then you don't need the whole mess that all these calculations, crazy
Yeah.
calculations and everything.
Okay.
Because you know what data points you need.
Yeah. Okay.
So just take those bits out of the logs and that's it.
I'll look. Good to check that.
Maybe it's something you do in Alteryx and you just have to run every night or something like that. So.
Okay.
Good. It's brutal projects. Better you than me.
I was so sharing.
I need to push question.
Last but not least.
I've got not that much battery, so.
Oh, there's
Should be okay.
I've been on
There used to be a spare.
Thanks. No one walked across. Super. All right, I'll start sharing.
Anyway, right?
Is it? Oh, no, that's not mine. Share. All right. Full screen that. Okay. So the requirement that I took on came straight from the top. Big Boss Tom said that it would be.
You could have ignored his request.
I thought it would be a nice one to try. So he said it would be nice to have a sort of Tableau Server landing page, and then what both he and JMac sort of directed me to as a kind of point of reference was some work by Mark Jackson. Should I flash it up for everyone?
If you want.
Yeah, I think it will just give a bit of context. So it's some. I don't know how to share it.
Just hit escape. And on yours. You're sharing your whole screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in. Oh, you need to go back to your share. You got to share your whole computer.
Okay.
Just go back there. And, up here. Stop share. And just start again to share.
Oh, this one. Okay.
And then screen. Yeah. Then share.
Super.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Super. Yeah. So this is something that Tom and JMac showed me. Sort of just it's a Tableau Server landing page. I sort of quite like the layout of it, so that's something that I tried to emulate with mine. And then it just shows you sort of recently accessed reports, and then at the bottom this strangely inverted bar chart, and then just sort of the views and users. Cool. So that's kind of where I took my inspiration from. Oh yes, and as JMac just said, it was made in version 8, so credit to Mark Jackson. So this is what I came up with. The bar chart at the top just shows the views over the given month. So I've got a calculation that underpins that where it should always just focus on the given month. So when we get to October, then you should just see one bar, and then as the days go by. Yeah.
Instead of last 30 days.
Yeah. So I used a date trunk.
Okay. I'm asking, like, why didn't you do last 30 days?
Oh, I see. Date trunk just popped into my head.
Okay.
So yeah, I've got on the side, I've got the number of distinct users for the given day, and the number of views for the given day, and then I've got a parameter for the bar chart as well. So if you'd rather see users than views, you've got that option. And the section underneath, what I've got is the most viewed worksheets, workbooks, sorry. I've got the most viewed workbooks within the last 7 days. So this here is the workbook name, and then I've just got a date time that tells you when it was viewed. And what you can do as well, if you click on one of the bars.
So those must be the subscriptions or whatever that runs.
It has to be, yeah.
Yeah, so because I spoke to Carl briefly about this as well, because the numbers for the licensing sales is so high, what I assumed either that it was a subscription or it's been embedded in a web page.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so what I thought would be useful as well is for each of the bars for a given worksheet, you could just click on it and then drill down to see the actual views per each view. And then as well, so rather than just showing the views, I've got the actual views as well. I think that's quite interesting. So if I go back to up to the top level, you can see sort of data school placements, 890 views. It's only got 893 views, so it's not necessarily at the top, but in terms of distinct users, it's sort of seeing the most traction.
Yeah.
And then as well, I've put in a vision tooltip. So when you hover over, it will show you the breakdown by device.
Okay, so you've got device in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you go, right. Is there a way to see most viewed? Is it like the top 10 or what's the, how do you determine most viewed? It looks like it's it looks like it's top 7 or?
So it was top 5, but then I was messing around with the top end underneath and I've got to change it back to 5.
Okay. I'd be tempted to just let the user scroll through that.
Okay, that was.
Because if I want to find a particular workbook, I could then scroll down.
Yeah, so that was something I considered, but just, yeah, I wasn't sure whether this scrolling would be a good or a bad design.
Yeah, I mean, I might try it and see.
Okay.
You could have it so that you have the entire table in there, but your size of sheet only allows you to see 7. Fix the height so that whatever device you want.
Yeah. So you scroll through and you'll just see 7.
Oh, okay.
So when you're sizing the little window or the sheet on the dashboard, you just line it up just right. Just right, so it looks like it's only showing 7 or 10 or something like that.
And then pin it sort of whatever device you want. You can. Yeah. You won't be able to see 7.
Okay. Cool.
I think what I would do, I would probably change the users this month to the last 30 days. And change most viewed in last week to most viewed in last 7 days. And same thing with created, probably have it last 7 days. That way it's a rolling number instead of, would that be more useful, JMac, to have it like that instead of like just the current month?
Yeah, potentially. This is a landing page. So the idea is everybody accessing the server lands on this dashboard. You make everybody go to this dashboard as soon as they log in. You set it as the start page for everybody. So what we're trying to show here is just kind of a little taster really of what's popular on the server, what's trending, what dashboards are hot right now, and then give people the opportunity to click through and have a look at them. So
yeah, that's why I was thinking it'd be better, like the most viewed, it'd be better to be, so if you're on the first day of the week, you'd only see 1 day there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely do 7-day rolling or maybe even monthly.
Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure. So how I calculated the most viewed in the last week is I did a date diff on the date to day and the date that something was viewed, and then just set it to only show me where that is like greater than or equal, so less than or equal to 7.
So that'd be 7 days then,
yeah. So it is rolling. It's just I labeled it as in the last
gotcha.
week.
Okay. Right. And same thing with the created in the past week one. Right. Okay. Great.
Is this across all sites? Because
I haven't put any filtering on sites or
so
projects.
it's across all sites. Okay, fine. So
That's really good.
That's a good call, Jonathan. Obviously, when it's not so applicable to our server, but in customer servers, one user might only have access to one site, in which case you'd only want to show them this data for that specific site only.
Yeah. Otherwise, if they click on one of those most viewed in last week, they may not have access to it. They kind of might just
So
what might be useful in that case then would be to sort of tie in some of the stuff we did about user permissions and just creating serving a different
filter on or something.
Yeah, exactly. So you serve a different view of this depending on what level of access the user has. I think that would be quite good.
That's right. Yeah. And what are the dots you have on there? So Superstore, for example, has that many worksheets in it.
So Superstore. The reason why there's 5 dots for Superstore if I hover over it is because everyone
they're different workbooks.
They're different workbooks. So
right.
And everyone just called them Superstore. What these buttons do, if you click on one, in fact, I'll just click on one of the Superstore ones. I put in a URL action underneath.
I think you're on the wrong one.
Oh, did I?
Oh, nice. It's a good one to start on.
That was completely accidental. Yeah.
Is that even the right one? That was,
let me have a look.
I'm not sure that it was.
Oh no.
Desktop place.
Which one did I?
You picked the one below it, but the one below it should be desktop license expiring.
Thought was there.
Well, I think the first one does work.
So you see here, this is desktop license expiring, so this isn't linking to the right. It's not linking with.
I'll check that because I'm not sure.
Well, hover over the circle you had clicked.
This one.
Till see the name is wrong.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's good. You don't want to bring up our desktop license in a demo anyway.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't do that.
Scramble the URLs.
So yeah, I'll check. I'll check to make sure that everything's labeled right.
You could. So is that a separate sheet?
Yes.
So the problem with that is then it won't synchronize. It won't synchronize scroll. So what you could do is have it as instead. So you've got a bar chart. You can have a third column. Are those both the same sheet using users?
Yeah.
So you could have a third sheet that you could just make them circles and then just put that field on a worksheet on level of detail.
I wasn't sure. So that would have been my first choice. I wasn't sure how that would have interacted with the set actions as well. So maybe it's a case of me trying to have too many features on this one particular area.
Yeah.
You can have synchronizing scroll windows. It's possible. Bit of a pain, but it's a pain.
I tried to do it in one sheet before I went that route.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, you could just apply the URL action on the bar chart. Someone clicks on a bar and they get the opportunity.
The Superstore example there's more than one workbook with that name.
Oh, right, I see. Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. There's 8 workbooks with the super names.
Yeah. I think there I would maybe create a calculated field that concatenates the workbook name and maybe the project name, the workbook name, and the sheet name, and use that as my list. That way, you'll break out all of the different superstores into distinct rows.
Okay.
And then you can do the URL action on the bar.
Mark, do you mean can your visit tooltip have an action on it? Is that what you mean?
That's correct. Yeah.
No.
Okay. That would have been nice.
You can't interact with visit tooltip.
But what if I want to put a tooltip in my tooltip?
Oh. Coming soon, said nobody.
Okay, so yep, the rest of it is quite straightforward. I've got a view of the workbooks created in the last week, and I've just put it as sort of the time in days, but if you hover over, then the tooltip will tell you the actual date time of when it was created.
And those link as well then?
Yep, so every button should, in fact, let me choose.
Don't go to that one. Yeah.
Facebook.
Space box, yeah.
That's the project.
Okay, cool.
And then at the bottom, I've got a view of what.
No, this is what we're looking at, right?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, trending dashboards in a given month. So how I've worked it out is just the biggest increase in the number of views based on the previous month. And then as well, all of the buttons there, they're all linked to that dashboard too. I think what I'd like to do as a next step, because I think the URL actions from a view like this are quite powerful. So if you could then have, I guess, thumbnails or just well-designed links that would then take you to other parts of the server that you may want to go, I think that would be quite a nice extension.
There's a couple of questions on the
Oh,
chat.
sure.
You can hit it on my screen.
Well, that's just, I think it's just saying that carefully.
Oh, I thought I saw another question.
Just comment.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I don't know what other people think about it, but at the last place, what was that? When we looked at trending on previous month, they preferred, rather than seeing 17,100%, they preferred to see 18 times.
Okay.
In 18x. They found that a lot easier to read. I don't know whether.
It's 17,000x.
No, it's just 18x.
Yeah, so rather than having it as a percent.
Yeah, so divided by 100, round it up. I don't know, sticking it.
Yeah, very nice and useful point.
But,
yeah. Cool.
All right,
all right, well done. Okay, Mac, that's it. Any last feedback?
Hey guys. Yeah, that was great. I think some of those were really challenging. Even Ellie, I know you were lucky enough to pick the really difficult ones. But yeah, I think what would be really valuable is if someone could share all the responses dashboard, Joe, the one that you built. Share that with the community. So maybe share that back to everybody on Twitter who replied. I've just off the back of all the communications we did yesterday, I'm speaking to Thomas Foldy next week. He's a Tableau Server oriented Zen master who's been asked to help rebuild these the built-in admin views. And he wanted to have a call, ask for feedback on the stuff that they've built. So yeah, it's definitely generated a lot of interest in the community. And I think it's probably worth sharing all of those requests that we got back out to everybody.
Okay. So they could publish these up on Tableau Public. They got to make sure they get rid of any data that's sensitive to us.
So yeah, in terms of all the questions. So the use cases viz, the one that Joe did, that's fine to share publicly. All the other ones that have our internal data, I don't know.
Just do screenshots maybe instead?
Yeah, maybe just screenshots for those. I don't think we should put them on public.
Okay. Cool. All right. That sounds good. Thank you. And Mark,
okay.
Any other feedback, Mark, from you or anybody else that's on the phone?
I think Mark had to drop off.
Okay, that's it then. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, J-Mac.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.